In this video, I made a mistake all because of this thing. All right, welcome to the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. And like I said, I made a mistake, and it's all because of this little dimple mat. This thing is what I use to help me with water infiltration, right? So on one side it has dimples, on the other side it does not. And I think you can already begin to understand where the mistake happened. Let's talk about the scenario. You see this? That's water. That's water infiltration in the basement, and that needed to be addressed. But the real question is, where's the water coming from exactly? Well, if you look at this picture, it kind of looks like it's coming from all the way over here on this wall here. I'm not sure, that's really pretty dark, right? So you would think a lot of water is coming from there, but then it looks like some water is coming from the edges there. So I wasn't really sure. It looks like it came in from over there and then came this way and then pooled up over there. Ultimately, I didn't know whether or not it was coming from underground or through this wall here. If you can see the paint color, it kind of has a couple of distortion parts. That tells me that maybe water was getting in, but the paint could be holding it back. So if the paint's holding it back, then I have to address that as well. But the question is how? Well, the answer is with a French drain. Here's a picture of me in front of the French drain that we installed. This is a sump pump. Right, this is a sump pump, and all along here is a pipe with holes in it. And then that pipe fills up with water because the holes are on the side of the pipe. When water comes from underground, it fills up the pipe, it runs down the pipe, and then it eventually gets to the sump pump right there, and then that sump pump kicks the water out of the house. And that is how you solve the problem of the water coming in from underground. To make sure we did a really good job, we made sure to run that pipe all the way around the perimeter. So we have it in the front there, we have it against this side wall here, so it's all good, right? So we're making sure we capture everything there. But the question is, if it's coming through that wall, how do you handle it? Well, of course, we're going to use our dimple mat. This is what the dimple mat looks like installed, and here is the framing that we're doing for the drywall to go on, right? Here's the dimple mat against the cinder block wall, and then we've put the framing in, and then we're gonna put drywall over that, and we're gonna finish the basement. Now, upon further inspection, the dimples were placed the wrong way. They were facing out when really they should be facing in. All right, let's talk about how this thing works. Imagine this pencil case that I have here. You guys see all the holes in it, right? Imagine this pencil case was a cinder block, and it's not too far off. A cinder block is kind of porous. Water can get in, right? If this cinder block allows water through it, then what we gotta be careful of is that if, say, this is the outside, right? If this is the outside of the house, and this is the inside of the basement, this cinder block is the only thing keeping the outside elements from coming in. That's where this comes into play. The dimple side goes against the wall, and when that goes against the wall, water can come from the outside. It may penetrate the cinder block, but it won't get past the dimple wall because this is a plastic sheet going against the wall here, the cinder block wall. Now, if you look at the dimple sheet, it's got these dimples so that water can find its way down, but because it's a plastic sheet, it won't go through. So this is the inside of the basement. The water is going to get to this part and then just drain on down. But where is it going to go? Well, that's where the French drain is. Here's a pipe. This is the French drain pipe, and it's got holes in it. As the water trickles all the way down, we bury this in the ground in the cement where the pipe with the holes is, and this is covered with gravel and then cemented over. So this, again, is in the trench with the pipe, and then the water is finding its way down. It's finding its way down the wall and then into the French drain pipe, and then that gets redirected to the sump pump and then gets kicked out of the house. And then on this side of the dimple mat, right, we had the cinder block, we have the dimple mat, and then we are on this side, that's the inside. Now we are completely dry. Water may be coming through the cinder block, but it never penetrates the dimple wall because it's plastic. And also it has a place to go. It runs down the little channels that the dimple creates into the French drain pipe. That's how this works. Unfortunately, my guys, instead of installing it this way, they installed it the other way. So now, instead of having channels, it just has this flat part and then an indentation and a flat part and an indentation. And when it's pushed up against the wall, it doesn't have a nice channel to run down. Not only that, it doesn't have a nice channel to run down to get to the French drain at the bottom. You guys see what the problem is? So when they installed it backwards. Here's the funny thing. I showed multiple guys at the job site which way this goes. Yet, in the beginning of the video, I stated that I messed up. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. But before we go into that, let's keep on looking at the progress. So again, this is a picture of the dimple mat installed the wrong way when we looked closer. So of course, we had to rip it all out. We actually ripped down that whole entire framed out wall and we ripped out the dimple mat. It had to go. I am not a slumlord and I am not going to have my properties done incorrectly. So we ripped it all out and we started over. We even redug the trench because remember, this dimple mat needs to finish off inside the trench there. It needs to finish off inside the trench and it needs to end at the pipe so that the water has somewhere to go. And then after we ripped everything back out and put everything back in, we put the framed up wall up and then we finished it off. And here is the drywall. This picture is from today, so I don't have the finished product, but this is the finished drywall that is now ready to be compounded, sanded, and then painted. Now, what are the lessons that I learned from this? I thought that by educating some of the guys how to install this thing, that they would understand it. But when you're talking to somebody and you're showing them this piece, right, they may or may not be paying attention while you're talking to them. So despite me trying to explain it to the guys, I should have made it more foolproof. This is why I say it's my fault. Because if I blame them, then I'm giving them the power. If I blame them for being wrong in this situation, then I don't learn. Right? So here I explained to them, okay guys, install this on this side and this and that. It kind of looks like the same on both sides. So you're not really paying attention. You're just like, yeah. I'll install the mat, the dimple mat. What's the big deal? So I could have painted one side and then wrote on the wall, like match up the colors, match this side to this side, and then maybe that would have done it. Or I could have cut a little piece off and taped it against the wall and said, make sure you match it this way. I should have made it more foolproof. Or I could have FaceTimed with somebody, or I could have been there while they were installing it. But again, I am a very hands-off investor, but I am hands-on sometimes, especially when it's special situations like this. This doesn't come up all the time. I could have been there, I could have FaceTimed, but I didn't, right? So that is my fault. That's why I messed up. I didn't make this foolproof enough. So I learned in next time when something is kind of tricky like this piece here, that I should be more involved or make it so that they can't mess it up. If I taped this against the wall and said, make sure you install it this way, then there's no messing that up. The other lesson that I learned in all of this was to not lose my cool. Right? Don't lose your cool. I went into the house and I looked at the framed up wall and I looked and I saw that the dimple mat was the wrong way. And I could have easily lost it and been like, oh my gosh, guys, I explained it to you and you guys still messed it up, right? And I could have really made them feel bad, but I didn't. I didn't lose my cool. And this is why. Because within 2 hours, they had it all fixed and maybe that cost me an extra $150. That's okay. Because just I spend $150 in like doorknobs or something like that, right? It's something small, and if it got fixed in 2 hours, and I didn't even notice because where they ended the job, where they put the drywall up, they got done that early. So even if they had finished the framing yesterday instead of having to redo it today, they would have just done the drywall and stopped anyway because you got to wait for the compound guys to come do their job. The drywall guys who put up the drywall and the dimple mat, may not be the same guys as your compound guys. So then you just got to wait for your compound guys anyway. So I didn't lose my cool. And I also did not crucify the people who made the mistake. Look, we all make mistakes. I've made mistakes in all of my properties, and every single time it cost me money. To make somebody who works for me feel really, really bad, that doesn't prove a point. He understood the lesson. He saw it, I showed it to him, and then when he messed it up and he had to rip it all out, you know he learned a lesson. You know he cares. You know he took it to heart, and he's probably thinking about it now. So there's no need to make him feel any worse. But when you do make them feel really bad, then they resent you. They don't want to work for you, and then they're going to do a half-assed job in other areas. So try not to make people feel bad when they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You're going to make a mistake as an investor. I make tons of mistakes. So I show them, I point to them, I point out what the mistake was, and then we move forward. And then the next time I see the guys, I'm probably going to run up and give them a hug and make fun of them and make sure that we all are back to where we were before this all happened and move forward. They're going to continue to do a great job everywhere else. They make a little mistake like that, so be it. It's a couple of hours, it's a couple of bucks, but nobody loses anything. Nothing is lost. And the thought of it, well, guess what? It allows me to make a YouTube video so that you guys can learn from it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video if it went smoothly. So you guys got to learn from this, all because it happened. Stuff happens, and that ultimately is the bigger message. I could teach you about how to foolproof this little thing, but really the lesson here, don't make anything a big deal, because you will get over it, you will get past it, and it will be a distant memory in no time. Don't make people feel bad, because they're going to remember that forever. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I hope you guys learned something from on my behalf, because if you did, then you're going to be a better investor for it, and then you will be able to multiply the assets you own. If you like this video, hit that like button and make sure you share this with other people, and don't forget to subscribe, because I release new videos every Monday and Wednesday here on the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. All right, guys, let's end this generational wealth curse, and let's build more wealth for ourselves and our families and our friends and everybody else that we know. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Peace.